of adaptations in the natural world. In addition to studying adaptations in living organisms, biologists also examine fossils, the remains or impressions of organisms from previous geological ages. The similarities and differences between present and past life forms on Earth help scientists understand adaptations. For example, fossils of dinosaurs show similarities with modern alligators, Alligator mississippiensis, and crocodiles, Crocodylus species. These similarities help biologists understand the origins of alligators and crocodiles, as well as how life on Earth has changed and how important adaptations have evolved. In the past, these observations led biologists to ask whether any natural forces or processes could be identified to explain the many amazing changes and adaptations that the fossils revealed. Many scientists began to investigate these questions. From their observations and experiments, they developed different ideas about how adaptations arise and change over time. It was not until a young English biologist named Charles Darwin investigated the topics of change, adaptation, and species, however, that the force driving the origin of adaptations and species was identified. Darwin called this force natural selection. Natural selection is an important biological principle that is often misunderstood and misinterpreted. Very simply, natural selection is the process through which some individuals of a species have traits, adaptations, that allow them to survive and produce more offspring than other individuals of the species. Consequently, the traits that help them survive and leave more descendants become more common. Natural selection is often confused with evolution, which is the change in a species over time. But natural selection and evolution are not the same thing. Natural selection is one of several different processes that can cause evolutionary change. Natural selection, however, is the only evolutionary process that can result in adaptations that help organisms survive in their environment. Lamarck. Jean-Baptiste Pierre-Antoine de Monnet, Chevalier de Lamarck, was a French biologist who proposed a theory called inheritance of acquired characteristics. In his theory, parents acquired traits throughout their lives that they passed on to their offspring. Giraffes, for example, are thought to have originally had short necks. According to Lamarck, giraffes that stretched their necks to reach high leaves actually made their necks longer and produced offspring that had longer necks than their parents did when they were born. Similarly, a blacksmith who develops strong muscles while working at his forge should have stronger children than a poet who flexes his brain more often than his biceps. Biologists tested this idea by cutting the tails off mice and other animals, and then allowing them to breed. In contrast to expectations from Lamarck's theory, the offspring of tailless adults always had tails. Thus, although his theory was wrong, it could be tested scientifically to determine its validity. The scientific method and scientific theories. The word science comes from the Latin term scientia, which means to know. Science is exactly that, a way of investigating and knowing about the natural world. When scientists investigate questions, they cannot accept an explanation for an observation of the natural world simply because it makes a good story. Instead, they use an approach called the scientific method to investigate the natural world systematically. The scientific method can be used to answer questions ranging from why chemicals react in certain ways to how adaptations function. The scientific method is composed of several steps. First, an observation is made. For example, one might notice that some plants produce more seeds than others do, and plants that produce more seeds also produce flowers that attract more butterflies. Second, a question is asked that may explain the observation. In this case, do the flowers that attract more butterflies produce more nectar than flowers that attract fewer butterflies? Third, a possible explanation, or hypothesis, for the observation is developed. For example, if different flowers make different amounts of nectar, then plants that make more nectar should attract more butterflies, be pollinated more often,